The new DC universe has begun. Now, I'm gonna give a spoiler warning. This season just wrapped up, so I'm gonna be talking about what happens in it, including the finale. So if you haven't watched it and you're planning on it, I advise you not to watch this video yet. If you have watched it or you don't care, then you're fine. Alright, well, let's begin. Creature Commandos Season 1. So Creature Commandos Season 1 is the first TV season and first installment in the brand new DC universe, which, as we should all know by now, is the soft reboot of the previous DC Extended Universe. They're starting all over again with James Gunn and Peter Safran heading up DC Studios, and this is our first installment in said new franchise. So in Creature Commandos Season 1, after the events of the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker Season 1, I know I just said this is a brand new franchise. I'll explain and go into more detail later, but for now, the premise. In a nutshell, Amanda Waller's still the head of Argus, since she can no longer legally assemble human beings to go out and do her dirty work for her. She now assembles a group of non-humans, a group of monsters, Task Force M, aka the Creature Commandos. A team led by Rick Flag Sr. and consisting of The Bride, G.I. Robot, Dr. Phosphorus, Weasel, and Nina Mazursky. They're sent to the nation of Pokolistan because their princess, Ilana Rostovic, is under attack from an Amazon sorceress named Circe, and so the Creature Commandos have to take her down. That's the basic premise setup. So what did I think of this season of TV that is the first installment of this brand new franchise anyway? I thought it was good. Truth be told, my biggest fear about it is that it would just feel like another Suicide Squad adventure without a Suicide Squad, but it might as freaking well be, you know? And in a lot of ways, this season did feel like that, at least to me. That being said, I still like the characters. Rick Flag Sr., who's voiced by Frank Grillo, who's always awesome. He is pretty badass. And I like the fact that, kind of like Amanda Waller, he's not afraid to be face to face with some of these weirdos. He can hold his own, at least verbally, against them. But now diving into the creatures. The Bride, voiced by Indira Varma, who you may remember from Game of Thrones or Obi-Wan Kenobi. She's the real bitch of the team. She doesn't have any respect for anyone. She means to be rude when she is, which to me made her not really likable at first. But as the season progressed, I did come to understand why she is that way. And actually, she does grow a bit. She actually has a pretty good character arc in this season. I appreciate that. I'll touch more on it when I get to the finale. G.I. Robot is voiced by Sean Gunn. I actually got a kick out of this guy, because he comes from World War II, so he's been programmed to kill Nazis as his prime directive. And ever since then, he hasn't been able to get that out of his head. He just loves killing Nazis. It's like his favorite thing. So he has some pretty fun moments.
It's been oh so long since G.I. Robot has sent Nazis back to hell.
And also, I just loved watching him throw down, transforming and pulling out all these guns and just shooting folks. He's cool. Dr. Phosphorus is voiced by Alan Tudyk, and he's pretty cool as well. I didn't find myself as emotionally attached to him as I did to other characters I've listed so far, but visually, he's probably the coolest looking character on the team. And actually, since James Gunn has said that these characters will translate into live action as well, I'd love to see Dr. Phosphorus in a live action format. I think he'd look really cool. Weasel's on the team, also voiced by Sean Gunn. You may remember this character from the Suicide Squad. Again, I'll explain later. I wasn't as emotionally attached to him either, mostly because for the most part he is just a feral animal, although this season certainly does illustrate that he does have a soul, which I actually really did buy into, and I liked it. I actually really liked the backstory he ended up getting. I'll explain in a minute, but yeah, it actually did end up getting me a little more emotionally invested in Weasel. Good job to that. Although, gotta say, my favorite character in this season is Nina Mazursky, voiced by Zoe Chow, because she's the nice one. In fact, I'm not really sure how she ended up in prison anyway. The show doesn't really explain that. But yeah, she's like, why do we need to fight? Why do we need to use violence? She's kind-hearted. I gravitated towards her. Plus, I don't know, she's not that bad to look at. Does that make me weird? I don't know. Frankenstein's monster is also in the show. I guess he goes by the name Eric Frankenstein, which is weird to me, but he's voiced by David Harbour, who I love. That being said, was not a big fan of this character, because he's not part of the team, but really he's just a third party who's constantly chasing after the Bride because he believes they're destined to be together. But he's a big man-child. He's really immature to the point of me being frustrated with him. I mean, it shows that he's been chasing the Bride for decades, and I don't know, maybe it's because that's how his brain works, but I really just want to be like, dude, all right, you need a life or afterlife. Just get over it, move on. You could be something special, but you're so just tunnel vision focused on the Bride. Oh my god, dude. He just got annoying to me at a point. Yeah, he's a big man-child. And honestly, this applies to the whole season. There are things I love for sure, and there are things I wasn't a huge fan of. Like I said, the story is pretty much just another Suicide Squad-esque adventure. I mean, there is a twist, yeah, and it was a cool twist, but still. One thing I liked at first anyway, is the fact that each episode delves into the backstory of one of the monsters, while also balancing the current story at hand. So we have episodes that dive into the backstory of the Bride, Nina Mazursky, Weasel, all of them. And they're what really give you the emotional attachment to each character, which works really well because James Gunn, in fact, wrote each episode. He didn't direct them, but he wrote them. But that being said, showing each of these monsters' backstory, it's fine, but also it felt kind of off after a bit. Like, I think back to Gunn's previous projects, Guardians of the Galaxy, the Suicide Squad. Sure, their characters' backstories were delved into, but not like this show does. Like, they didn't really take time to show flashbacks of the characters' backstories. For the most part, they kept the focus on the mission at hand. For the most part. I know, Guardians 3 had a lot of flashbacks to Rocket's past, but my point is, I feel like the backstory flashbacks in this season, they kind of screwed up the pacing a little bit. Like, does the show want to focus on establishing these characters or the current mission at hand? You gotta pick one, especially if a couple of these characters are gonna end up dead by the end. Like, why set up Nina Mazursky as an emotional character just to kill her off at the end? To break my heart, because you certainly succeeded in doing that. I'll get there. But yeah, that's how I feel about it. Now, this season of TV does certainly have the irreverence that you would come to expect from a James Gunn title. It's violent as hell, it's rated TVMA, it's got the banter back and forth, it's got the humor that sometimes works, sometimes doesn't, it's got the needle drops, which I wasn't a huge fan of in this show. But again, that's just subjective taste in music. This stuff isn't my jam. But this kind of stuff is James Gunn's wheelhouse. It's what he does. He does stuff like this. The team of misfits that comes together. He's done this a few times now at this point. So he's got it down to a science. That's kind of another thing that makes this season feel repetitive, like another repeat of the Suicide Squad or even Guardians of the Galaxy. That's kind of another reason I'm looking forward to Superman, because it's not going to be that. That's going to be Gunn stepping outside his comfort zone. And I hope he's good at that. But as repetitive as this season feels, Gunn still does a great job at getting you emotionally attached to the characters via those backstories. It's kind of contradictory in my head. I'm like, yeah, the pacing is kind of off because of it, and it does feel like another Suicide Squad story. That being said, I still love the characters because Gunn's writing is really good at that stuff. Yeah, it's like a battle in my head, you know? By the end of this season, I was like, I love these freaks. And this season does set up the larger DC universe. Throughout it, we see little hints of Gotham City, Star City, characters like Batman, like Clayface, who I guess is gonna get his own movie eventually down the line. That's neat. Funny thing is though, is that Clayface is voiced by Alan Tudyk again. He also voices that character in the Harley Quinn animated show. Of course, this is a different version of him, and since he's getting his own movie, I assume it's gonna be live action. I don't know for sure, but I assume it is. Is Alan Tudyk gonna play him? I don't know. James Gunn did say that the same actors are going to play them in live action, so probably. But getting back to it, we also see at a point, when Cersei shows Amanda Waller that bullshit vision of the future, we straight up see these superheroes, Superman, Wonder Woman, Starfire, Batman, Robin, we see a bunch of them, and you're like, holy shit, alright, so we are in it. This new DC universe is not starting off with the origin stories, we're just diving right into the mix. I can actually respect that, and it does make sense, especially since, yeah, we do pick up from the events of Peacemaker Season 1, this is where I'm gonna explain it, because yeah, this is a soft reboot of the previous DC Extended Universe. My answer anyway, is because, yeah, it's due to the events of the Flash movie. Because in that movie, whether you liked it or not, this is what happened. Barry Allen, the Flash, did reset the universe in a way. So the way I see it, since that happens, some things will be different and some things are not. Breaking the fourth wall now, I'm sure all the James Gunn stuff that he did in the DCEU, that is still canon. That's what carried over because it's James Gunn. So it makes sense. Everything else is bye-bye. I mean, that being said, I'm pretty sure Batman's not going to be played by George Clooney because that's who Bruce Wayne ended up being played by at the end of the Flash movie. But yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do with Batman yet. Good news is that's still a ways down the road. So there's my explanation. Coming to the finale, well, first of all, Rick Flag is still beat up because he was beat up by Clayface, so he's hospitalized. I'm sure he'll be fine by the time we get to Superman, because it has been confirmed that Frank Grillo is gonna reprise that role in that movie, which is really exciting, but we'll see. So the team was ordered by Waller to go kill the princess Ilana Rostovic because of that bullshit vision that Cersei gave her. It was a trick, which really ended up stinging, man. Because they tell Nina Mazursky to go kill the princess because she's swimming. Nina's better in the water. But they scuffle and the princess ends up killing Nina, like actually killing her. I was like, oh man, not Nina. Of all characters, why Nina? That broke my heart. Damn you, James Gunn. Like, I'm sad. I'm legitimately sad about this. I'm gonna be in mourning now. And that really serves as motivation for what the bride does next. Because it turns out that I guess Cersei wasn't completely wrong. The bride finds out, oh yeah, Ilana Rostovic, the princess, she really was a bitch all along. So the bride just straight up shoots her in the head. And that's that. Because you killed the only friend I had. The only one of us freaks who had an ounce of kindness in her heart. I was like, yeah, I'm still sad about Nina though. Because honestly, this is not what Nina would have wanted. That's how I see it. Nina would not have wanted her dead. She was reluctant to make a killing move on the princess after all. So it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But what's done is done. And well, we do have victory. And so in the end, the bride is appointed as the head of a new team of creature commandos, which includes Weasel and Dr. Phosphorus, yeah. But also this Nosferatu chick, a new GI robot because he was blown up in the third episode, but he's been reassembled to be a tank now. Nice. And King Shark, who we remember from the Suicide Squad. Okay then. So new team. The show has in fact been renewed for a season 2, so we will see where this goes. goes. And of course, there's a post-credit scene that shows that Eric Frankenstein is okay. The bride shot him up, and so that was that. But no, he's fine, and I'm sure he's still gonna resume his hunt for the bride. Ay, when will he learn? Like, honestly, I don't really think he was even necessary in this season. That's how much I didn't care for him. But in conclusion, Creature Commandos Season 1, I enjoyed it, I did. For me, it's nothing really special or groundbreaking, not even in the animation, but it is still a good time. It's James Gunn doing what James Gunn does. Fun characters that are three-dimensional with great backstories, and you do end up emotionally attached to them, even reluctantly for some. Good action, some humor that works, some humor that doesn't. Really, I'll just say this. If you like James Gunn's work, you'll enjoy this season. If not, then you probably won't. But as the very first chapter in a brand new DC universe, it's not completely terrible, and that is a win in my book. Worth watching if you like DC, for sure. Check it out on Max. So, Creature Commandos Season 1. Have you watched it yet? Have you watched it all? What are your thoughts on it? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Peace!